Hello and welcome to part 2 of value window function. In this video, we will learn about the two functions, which is first value and last value. A quick refresh. So value window functions are used to perform calculation on specific subset of. We can compare current row with any specific row. We looked at lead and lag function in the previous session. Now in this session, we will look at first value and last value. Let's start with the first value. So the first value window function, it returns the value of the specified expression with respect to the first row in the window frame. So within whatever partition we are standing, it will pick the first row of that partition. Let's understand this with the help of an example. Again, let's look at the hospital salary dataset, which had different employees across different departments of the hospital and their salary. Now let's say we want to display the maximum salary corresponding to each row for each department. So again, let's say for nursing department, we have 3 employees, Sarah, Rebecca and Jessica. And the maximum salary across these 3 employees is for Sarah, which is 65,000. Now for each row within this department, for each employee, we want to have 65,000 across each of this, right? For Sarah, we would have 65,000 across a new column, which is, let's say, first value. For Rebecca also, it will show 65,000 across this column. And for Jessica also, it will show 65,000. Let's see this with the code. So we will move back to Metabase again. Now again, I'll quickly look at the dataset. We will do select star to see all the columns from our dataset, which is hospital underscore employees. I'll close the query with semicolon. We will run this. So again, this is our dataset. Now we want to display the maximum salary corresponding to each employee for the department, right? So this is our problem statement. So I'll do select. Let's pick all the columns. And now we will use our function, which is first value, first underscore value. Now this function also takes a column name. So for which column within the partition you want to pick the first value. So we want to pick the first value from salary column. So we will pick salary underscore USD. Now we will partition it over department. So partition by department. And then because we want to see the maximum salary, we will order them from high to low in terms of salary. So I will use order by clause, order by, and then our column, which is salary USD in descending. So by default, it is ascending. So we have to provide descending keyword here. And we can rename it as max underscore salary. Okay, and then we will read our dataset using from clause, from underscore hospital employees. Okay, now we will run this. And you can see that the first partition is for administration department. And because I sorted the salary from high to low, you can see for each row within this partition, we get highest salary, which is 75,000. In the second partition, which is nursing department, the maximum salary is 65,000 for Sarah. And for each row, we get 65,000. Similarly, for pharmacy also, we get 90,000, which is the maximum salary. Alright, so we looked at this syntax where we selected our columns. We selected all the columns. And then we have first value function. Again, the function took the column name. And we don't have any offset here because by default, it will look at the first value of the partition. Alright. So This was about first value function, which returned the first value of a specified column or expression within a window, right? Now look at last value function. So this again is very intuitive. As the first value was looking at the first value or first row within the partition, now this last value will look at the last row within the partition. Again, we will pick the same data set, and let's say now we want to display the minimum salary for each of the rows for each department. Previously, we were looking at the maximum salary. We were getting maximum salary for all the rows in the partition or the department. Now let's pick the minimum salary. So let's go back to the Metabase. Okay, so we want to look at the minimum salary. So again, I'll do select start. And now we want to use last underscore value function. The column that we need to provide is salary because we want to get the minimum salary. We will partition it by department using partition by clause. And now again, order by salary, right? Now I want to pick the minimum salary. So I want to again go with the descending order, right? So that it sorts it in from high to low salary within a partition. And then we'll pick the last, right? And let's call it as minimum salary. We will read data from our data set and let's run it. So you'll find something unexpected here. Okay, so this is not what we expected. We're thinking it will fill all the row of the partition with the last value, right? But there is a reason why this is happening. If you recall, we have frame clause in our partition, which has some default value. So it has a default value of range between unbounded preceding and current row. It means that you are standing at your current row and looking at all the previous rows. So that is the range. So if I'm standing at current row and looking at previous rows, then my last value will by default be the value corresponding to the current row, right? So if you recall, frame clause, it used to provide a subset within the current partition, right? It helps in moving within the partition with respect to the current. Now I can modify the value for this frame clause and we can get the expected output with our last value function. Now let's go back to the Metabase and see how this works. Okay, so let's say if I write, range between unbounded preceding and current row, which is the default value. If I run this, you will see the same behavior because this is the default value. Now, in order to get the expected behavior from the last value function, I can do a few things. For example, like I can start between the current row and I can go till the last row using unbounded following. So we have a keyword. Unbounded means that it will go till the last, and following means that till the last row, right? Following the current row. So we had two, we could write preceding and following here. Preceding means the rows previous to the current row and following means the rows after the current. So if I write range between current row and unbounded following, it means that from the current row, I am looking at all the following row, the partition. Now, when I have come at this row for gyms, I look at all the following row. The last value is 50,000. Second row also, if I come to this row, I look at all the following row, which looks at Olivia, it will again give 50,000. Right? So for all the rows, we will get 50,000, which is the minimum salary. I can also write it unbounded preceding. Instead of current row, I can write unbounded preceding. And this will also work. So what I'm saying is look at all the previous rows and all the following rows with respect to current. So basically I'm looking at all the rows of the partition. And when I look at all the rows every time, then the last row will always be this Olivia. So we get the same out. For each of the partition, we can see it is giving us the last value, which is the minimum value across that partition. The syntax of last value is same as what it was for the first value. We have last value function, we provide the column of or expression, and then we partition it. Okay, so in summary, the last window function returns the last value of a specified window frame. By default, because the frame value is between unbounded preceding and current, that's why it doesn't work as expected by default. So we have to play with the default frame clause. We have to modify the default frame clause and get the expected utility from this. All right, so that's all from this session. Let's meet in the next one.